The world of professional wrestling is always filled with bright lights, where superstars appear like unbeatable warriors, powerful, larger than life, and dripping with charisma. But behind that facade, buried beneath the cheers, lie countless shadows the audience rarely sees. These are unfinished stories, careers left behind as the spotlight fades, and most chilling of all, mysterious deaths that shook the wrestling industry to its core. Today, we're diving into those tragedies, unsettling, controversial passings that remain unexplained to this day. Let's get started. Wrestling Sphere, go! Number 11. Art Barr. Art Barr is often remembered as one of the most unique talents of his generation. Someone who could have become a major star if his life hadn't been overshadowed by youthful mistakes. Born into a wrestling family, the son of Sandy Barr quickly made a name for himself through his bold performance style and his Beetlejuice-inspired character, based on the famous Tim Burton film. His high-energy persona drew attention on the local scene, but legal trouble nearly shut down his entire career in the U.S. After being banned from wrestling in Oregon, Barr moved to WCW under the ring name The Juicer. Despite being given a chance, his past continued to haunt him, eventually leading the company to terminate his contract. With no opportunities left in his home country, he turned to Mexico, and that's where Love Machine truly exploded. In Lucha Libre, Barr didn't just succeed, he became a sensation. His partnership with Eddie Guerrero formed the legendary tag team Los Gringos Locos, delivering explosive matches and performances that sent crowds into a frenzy. But success couldn't erase the loneliness of living far from home. Isolation, cultural differences, and homesickness pushed Barr toward alcohol and drugs. Even so, a huge opportunity was on the horizon. A return to the U.S. through an upcoming ECW appearance with Eddie Guerrero. Many believed it would be his second chance, a chance to rebuild his career and overcome the mistakes of his past. That promising future, however, never came. On November 23, 1994, Barr suddenly passed away at just 28 years old. Early reports suggested a possible aneurysm or heart failure, while others mentioned a drug-related reaction. His body showed traces of alcohol and narcotics, but ultimately, the official cause of death remained undetermined. Art Barr's passing left a somber mark on wrestling history, a brilliant talent extinguished far too early, leaving behind questions that were never fully answered. Number 10. Steve Bradley. Steve Bradley may have never appeared on television as an official WWE roster member, but behind the scenes, he was remembered as one of the most hard-working and promising names of his generation. In Memphis Power Pro and Ohio Valley Wrestling, two of WWE's key developmental systems, Bradley earned high praise for his consistency, in-ring storytelling, and professionalism. He was always part of that group of almost called-up talents, the ones everyone believed just needed one more opportunity to break through. Unfortunately, that moment never truly arrived. Although he never had an official debut, Bradley appeared in multiple dark matches and even participated in some TV segments as an extra. During this period, his most notable work came from a feud with Kurt Angle in Power Pro Wrestling over the company's heavyweight title. Local fans enjoyed the rivalry, even though it was voted most underrated feud of 1999. Years later, Angle mentioned Bradley during his 2017 Hall of Fame speech, calling him an unsung hero, a heartfelt acknowledgement of Bradley's quiet contributions to Angle's development. Throughout his time on the independent scene, he held the HWA Tag Team Championship 3 times with Val Venis and Lance Cade, and he worked behind the scenes in OVW as a coordinator before WWE released him in July 2002. Refusing to give up, Bradley launched the Wrestling Federation of America and founded the Top Rope Wrestling Academy, hoping to pass his knowledge to the next generation. But the years on the road took their toll. Chronic knee injuries left him in constant pain, and over time, Bradley turned to heroin as a desperate coping mechanism. On December 8, 2008, he was found dead inside his parents' stolen car, parked directly across from the training school he had built. He was only 32. With no witnesses and no clear trail of evidence, the exact cause of Steve Bradley's death remains a mystery to this day, leaving behind deep regret among those who believed he deserved a far brighter career. Number 9. Gino Hernandez. Gino Hernandez was once viewed as the perfect classic babyface. Striking looks, thick dark hair, and a confident presence that made him stand out across the southern territories of the 70s and 80s. But what truly turned him into a phenomenon came from the opposite direction. When he embraced the role of an arrogant heel, Gino seemed born for villainy. His swagger, his ability to manipulate a crowd, and his skill at telling stories in the ring made him the ultimate nemesis of the Von Erich family in world-class championship wrestling, WCCW. Gino's career soared even higher when he teamed with Chris Adams, another gifted star who would also meet a tragic, controversial end years later. As the villainous, dynamic duo, they not only dominated the spotlight but electrified the sportatorium. Their ruthless mockery of Fritz von Erich's sons made them one of the most hated heel teams of their era. Ratings climbed, championships piled up, and Gino's nickname, the handsome half-breed, became his signature, charming but dangerous. However, the brighter the lights, the darker the shadows. The world-class scene at the time was infamous for late-night parties, substances, and scandal after scandal. Gino wasn't immune to those temptations. As his fame grew, he slipped deeper into a risky lifestyle where pressure and indulgence mixed into something toxic. The tragedy struck when he failed to show up for an event and disappeared without explanation. Concerned WCCW staff contacted police for a welfare check. On February 2, 1986, officers broke into his apartment and found Gino's body. He was only 28. Evidence suggested he had been dead for several days. Because of his complicated real-life associations, his death was initially suspected to be foul play. The official ruling, however, listed the cause as a cocaine overdose. Even so, doubts never faded. Many who were close to Gino believed there was more to the story, and the mystery surrounding his death continues to haunt wrestling fans decades later. Number 8. David Von Erich. The Von Erich family is remembered as one of the most important legacies in wrestling history, but also as one of its greatest tragedies. Of Fritz von Erich's 6 sons, 5 passed away before he did, and among those heartbreaking fates, David was seen as the brightest hope, the one many believed would elevate the Von Erich name to unprecedented heights. Nicknamed the Yellow Rose of Texas, David carried a commanding presence, natural in-ring ability, and a unique connection with audiences. He regularly competed in NWA World Heavyweight Championship matches against icons like Harley Race and Ric Flair. Although he never captured the title, his performances convinced fans that it was only a matter of time. By late 1983, all eyes were on the intense rivalry between David and Ric Flair, a story built with remarkable detail that boosted his star power to new levels. A major title match was scheduled for April 1984 in Texas, where many believed David would finally reach the mountaintop. But fate intervened. In February 1984, while touring with All Japan Pro Wrestling, David was found dead in his Tokyo hotel room. He was just 28. The sudden loss stunned the wrestling world, and from there, the story grew darker. The official cause was listed as acute enteritis leading to a ruptured intestine, a rare but potentially fatal condition if untreated. However, many within the industry doubted that explanation. Rumors of heart issues or a drug-related reaction spread quickly. In his memoir, Ric Flair even mentioned that Bruiser Brody may have cleaned up the room to protect David's reputation, a detail that only deepened the mystery surrounding his death. Regardless of what truly happened, David's legacy endured. Later in 1984, his brother Kerry defeated Ric Flair to become NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a symbolic tribute that fulfilled David's unfinished dream. To this day, it remains one of the most emotional moments in NWA history and the most heartfelt honor for the Yellow Rose of Texas. Number 7. The Jimenez Brothers. The story of the Jimenez Brothers sounds like something ripped from a grim, sensational novel. Mini wrestlers, prostitutes, robbery, and a fatal overdose that left the wrestling world shaken. Sadly, every part of it is real, making it one of the most disturbing tragedies in the history of Mexican lucha libre. Twin brothers Alejandro and Alberto Jimenez were familiar faces in Mexico's Mini division. Known for their agility and energetic performances, they worked under the names Espirito II and La Parquita. Alejandro even appeared in WWE in the late 90s as Mini Mankind and Tarantula, roles that earned him attention for his ability to mimic the style of larger stars. At 35, both brothers were still active on the local circuit. But after a show on June 29, 2009, their lives took a horrific turn. They returned to their Mexico City hotel with 2 sex workers, one around 65 years old, and the other described by police as a heavy-set woman, a detail the media sensationalized heavily. Inside the hotel room, the women laced the wrestlers' drinks with eye drops, a substance that can cause extreme sedation when misused, intending to knock them out and rob them. What they didn't account for was the brothers' small stature and physiology. The dose was far too strong, pushing Alejandro and Alberto into a critical state from which they never woke. When authorities forced their way into the room, both had been dead for hours. The brutality of the incident and its shocking details drew worldwide attention. A year later, the two women involved were sentenced to 47 years in prison, closing the legal chapter but doing nothing to ease the enormous loss for the lucha libre community. The tragedy was later adapted into a film in 2015, a somber reminder that sometimes real-life horror is far darker than anything fiction could create. Number 6. La Fiera. La Fiera may not be a familiar name to today's international wrestling fans, but for those who followed lucha libre in the early 1980s, he was one of the finest performers of his generation. His natural talent, sharp technical ability, and fearless high-flying style made him one of Mexico's most memorable stars. Many even regarded La Fiera as the best wrestler in lucha libre during his peak, and that wasn't an exaggeration. Although he spent most of his career in Mexico, La Fiera also made a strong impression in Japan. He was chosen as the first opponent for Tiger Mask 2, a role taken on by the legendary Mitsuharu Misawa, a clear sign of the respect Japanese promoters had for him. La Fiera is also credited by several wrestling insiders as one of the innovators of the Frog Splash, a move later made famous by Eddie Guerrero, Art Barr, and generations that followed. He once held the NWA World Middleweight Championship, and had he maintained discipline, his career could have reached global legendary status. But his life took a dark turn. Late in his career, La Fiera became entangled with dangerous circles, especially drug-related groups. Pressure, personal struggles, and emotional damage pushed him deeper into addiction. By the 1990s, he even served prison time for involvement in drug trafficking, a stain that all but erased his chances of returning to the spotlight. His death was even more tragic. While details remain scarce, what is confirmed is chilling. La Fiera was ambushed, robbed, brutally beaten, and stabbed 5 times before being left for dead. He was found in critical condition and taken to a hospital in Mexico City, where he passed away on September 10, 2010, at only 49 years old. Even worse, no one has ever been arrested or charged in connection with a murder. From a brilliant star and a creative performer, La Fiera died surrounded by unanswered questions. His legacy remains respected, but his end is a lasting reminder of a talent pulled into darkness by fate and destructive choices. Number 5. Rikidozan. In the history of Japanese wrestling, no name holds more weight than Rikidozan. Widely regarded as the father of Purorisu, he laid the foundation for an entire industry that would explode in popularity after World War II. With a powerful in-ring style, fierce determination, and an ability to inspire national pride, Rikidozan quickly became a cultural icon. His victories over numerous American wrestlers, especially his win over Lou Thesz for the NWA International Heavyweight Championship in 1958, propelled him into legend status. Every Rikidozan match felt like a national event, drawing massive audiences and breaking TV records, making him the brightest star in Japan at the time. But behind the glamour was a man who lived hard, indulging in lavish nightlife and excess during his later years. That lifestyle eventually opened the door to the tragedy many still view as an unfair, unresolved death. On the night of December 8, 1963, while out at a club in Tokyo, Rikidozan got into an argument with a Yakuza member. The confrontation escalated, and he was stabbed once in the abdomen. Although he was rushed to the hospital and survived the initial surgery, Rikidozan resumed drinking during his recovery, which worsened the wound. Doctors were forced to perform a second operation, but it was too late. His death at just 39 shocked the entire nation. Japan had lost a cultural icon and national hero. Rikidozan's death sparked endless theories. Some claimed it was a heat-of-the-moment altercation. Others believed it stemmed from deeper conflict between organized crime and his overwhelming popularity. The Yakuza member responsible was sentenced to 8 years in prison for manslaughter, and after his release, he visited Rikidozan's grave every year to express remorse. Even so, the true circumstances behind the tragedy remain shrouded in doubt, giving Rikidozan's story a dark, haunting edge that persists to this day. Number 4. Abismo Negro. In the history of lucha libre, there have been many controversial deaths, but few shocked the entire community the way Abismo Negro's did. It was so bizarre that even by Mexico's already mysterious wrestling standards, This case stood out for its countless unanswered questions and details that never quite fit together. Abismo Negro began gaining attention in the early 1990s and quickly became one of AAA's top names. He wasn't just a fan favorite. He was also one of Mexico's most captivating villains, famous for his intense style and one of the most devastating tombstone piledrivers of that era. His career even brought him to WWE for a few matches in 1997, and later to TNA in 2004, short stints, but memorable enough to make international audiences recognize him. But behind the striking persona was a man constantly battling his own demons. Substance abuse left him mentally unstable, leading to unpredictable behavior. His career swung up and down, sometimes heavily featured, sometimes suspended, back to rehab, returning to cheering crowds, only to disappear again. His life felt like an endless cycle of chaos. Tragedy struck on the night of March 22, 2009. Only hours earlier, he had been riding a bus when he suddenly fell into a severe panic episode. He begged the driver to let him off in a remote, uninhabited area. After stepping off the bus, Abismo Negro texted his wife, saying he was lost, his tone frantic and disoriented. Concerned, the driver notified authorities immediately. By the next morning, Abismo Negro was found face down in a river near the town of El Rosario. He was only 37. The official cause was drowning, but the moments between him leaving the bus and his death remain a complete mystery. Why did he panic? What led him to wander alone in the dark? No one has ever been able to provide answers, and Abismo Negro's death remains one of Lucha Libre's most unsettling unsolved stories. Number 3. Ricky Lawless. Ricky Lawless was never a national star, but within the mid-Atlantic independent scene of the 1980s, he was a recognizable standout. With a hard-hitting style and rebellious personality, Lawless became the first heavyweight champion of the American Wrestling Federation, a significant accomplishment for an independent wrestler of that time. Yet the thing he's remembered for most isn't his in-ring success, but his role as a trainer. He helped develop several young talents who would later gain recognition, including Axl Rotten and Joey Maggs. However, every step forward professionally was followed by personal trouble. Outside the ring, Lawless was known as a reckless thrill-seeker who often put himself in dangerous situations. Instead of focusing on his future, he fell deeper into a wild, undisciplined lifestyle that clouded his path. On November 30, 1988, that lifestyle caught up with him in the worst possible way. Lawless was found shot to death in Baltimore, Maryland, at just 28 years old. His passing stunned the wrestling community, even though he wasn't a mainstream star. Early reports, including one from the Toronto Star, mistakenly claimed that former colleague Vladimir Koloff was the shooter. Later investigation confirmed that the gunman was Raymond Swartz. The motive only made the tragedy more chaotic and scandalous. Swartz claimed he killed Lawless after discovering that his wife had been having an affair with the wrestler. A crime born out of jealousy, tied to the life of a man trying to build his career, made the entire situation even more heartbreaking. 3 years later, in 1991, the story resurfaced when Hustler magazine published an article titled Shotgun Justice, a pro wrestler's final fall. The case gained public attention once again, but no matter how many times it was retold, Ricky Lawless's death remained a painful reminder of wasted potential, a career cut short by a tragedy that never should have happened. Number 2. Dino Bravo. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Dino Bravo was practically a Montreal icon. He dominated the local scene with his massive physique, incredible strength, and hard-hitting style. As WWE began expanding globally, Bravo saw a chance to step onto a bigger stage. He signed with Vince McMahon and was immediately pushed as a muscle-bound powerhouse, proudly billed as the world's strongest man. In WWE, Bravo became a despised heel who knew exactly how to get booed the moment his entrance hit. Even though he never captured a major championship, he carved out plenty of memorable moments, from brutal feuds with Hacksaw Jim Duggan to tense clashes with the Ultimate Warrior. But like many stars of that era, his momentum faded when the company began shifting in a new direction. He slid down the card, losing more often than he won. By April 1992, Dino Bravo officially left WWE. Shortly afterward, he retired from wrestling, closing the door on a career that had lasted decades. And from that point on, his life veered into a direction no one expected. With no degree, no side profession, and accustomed to the comfort that wrestling had provided, Bravo found himself at a dead end. To support his family, he became involved in the Canadian black market, specifically a lucrative but dangerous cigarette smuggling operation. This pulled him into hazardous circles, and ultimately, that world would lead him straight to tragedy. On March 10, 1993, Dino Bravo was found dead in his home. His body had been shot 17 times, a horrifying sight. He was only 44. Police ruled it as a targeted hit, but to this day, the shooter has never been identified. What makes the case even more chilling is that many believe Bravo knew his end was near, and that the person responsible may have been someone he trusted. A star who once thrived under the bright lights ultimately died in a mystery that remains unsolved. Number 1. Chris Benoit. For more than 2 decades, Chris Benoit was considered one of the finest in-ring performers the sport had ever seen. He built his reputation on intensity, precision, elite technical skill, and a relentless fighting spirit. From his early days in Japan to his peak years in WWE, Benoit captured multiple major titles, including the World Championship, seen by many as the ultimate recognition of his talent and dedication. Then came the tragedy that unfolded in late June 2007, leaving a deep scar on WWE's history and sending shockwaves around the world. On June 24th, news broke that Benoit had died at age 40. But what stunned everyone were the circumstances. When authorities entered the Benoit home, they discovered an unthinkable scene. His wife and young son had died before him, and Benoit himself was found dead last. The story erupted across global media. Early investigations labeled it an extremely severe criminal case, suggesting Benoit committed horrific acts before taking his own life. But the moment the details were made public, countless questions emerged, because Benoit's life had never shown signs of a man spiraling out of control. Colleagues described him as quiet, disciplined, and rarely emotional. A later examination of Benoit's brain revealed severe chronic traumatic damage, the result of thousands of impacts over years of wrestling. Some experts argued that these injuries could drastically affect mood, behavior, and impulse control. Yet even with these explanations, the case remains clouded by uncertainty. No one truly knows what happened in the family's final hours, or what pushed a man admired for his work ethic into such a dark, desperate end. More than 17 years have passed, but the Chris Benoit tragedy remains one of the most debated, chilling, and haunting events in WWE history, a wound the wrestling world may never fully heal from. These stories reveal that behind the ring lies a world of pain no one ever sees. If you want to keep exploring the hidden side of wrestling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to support Wrestling Sphere.